Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nothing happened this week.
Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna do a show anyways. Maybe I can talk about things that are important to me, like I don't know, shit. Oh, big news! I upgraded to Windows 11. Yay!
Ugh. Gross. The PCs I used in Sweden had Windows 11 installed, and I hated it.
All you got to do is, okay, so if you get used to the fact that all the windows are now rounded for some reason, and that everything that you gotta switch everything to go to the left side of the taskbar, and then you gotta get used to never being able to see what's on your start bar, and then it's fine. I think it's fine. There's actually one feature about it that I can report back for anybody who this might be important to that has become very dank, and that is they fixed multi-monitor support when you turn monitors on and off, because it remembers where your windows are, which is very important for me who has 3 monitors and windows that go all over the place like they're having a seizure all the time.
I don't think I've ever noticed having that problem.
How often
Windows 11?
How often do you just have one of your monitors on and not both of them?
Oh, never.
Okay. So my third monitor's my third monitor is my TV, and sometimes it just goes to sleep.
Oh.
And so Windows thinks that my TV is like where my windows need to be some of the time, and it's a real pain in the ass. Windows 11 fixes that, and honestly, worth upgrading, even though a lot of stuff kind of broken. Like, the clock is so small. That's all I got. That's all I got for you. That's the show, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us at patreon.com/sidepoll.
Keep giving us money.
Keep giving us money to do this. You know, there is you know what? I lied. Two exciting things. Things. One of them being Windows 11. The second one, Dendi won a tournament match today.
All right.
For the first time in 4 months.
Oof. Do you know how long that loss streak was?
4 months.
Okay. Bait really does rack up some pretty long loss streaks. It's pretty crazy. Like they like every iteration routinely gets like over 10, close to like above 20, you know? It's pretty bad. All right. Well, let's start off with the only topic that we really have for today. Then we'll naturally spiral from there. This will be a Dragon's Blood spoiler episode.
Surely everybody who's wanted to watch Dragon, we gave them like 2, maybe 3 weeks, right? It's been like 2.5 weeks because we had other stuff that was more important to talk about than Dragon's Blood, because there was real drama, real news. And I think that us not mentioning Dragon's Blood Season 2 until right now, when we don't have other stuff to talk about, is probably a good way to view what we actually think of the show, because it wasn't important enough to cram in somewhere else.
Yeah, we had too much shit to talk about last week. There's too much drama that happened. And yeah, a lot of people may not have finished up Dragon's Blood if they're not degenerates. Though the show is pretty short, to be fair. It really is. Which
it's like less than 3 hours, right? Something like that?
Yeah, we'll talk about some other nonsense at the end of the show, but if you want to avoid spoilers, maybe just come back to this episode later. And spoilers begin in 3, 2, 1. Season 2 is hot garbage, much like Season 1.
Okay, so production note, Austin. Like, if we go like that out the gate, then we gotta figure out what to talk about, because you know what? Okay, here, contrarian Joey. Here I go.
Okay.
I don't feel as strongly negative as you do about it.
Oh, okay.
But like, okay, so if I'm gonna start this off with like a top line score out of 10, I'm gonna say 6, and I think that the only reason it crests over a 5 into a 6 is because I like DOTA a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I've asked you this a couple times. Does 6 mean that 5 is average? Are we doing that ranking system?
Yeah, I would say 5 is like 5 is average and passable and watchable. Anything 5 and up is watchable. Anything 4 and below is like cannot recommend even a little bit.
Okay. So you think this is an above average show?
But like barely, and because of a bias of myself liking Dota, I think if I
There's a
wasn't
whole bunch of like what reality TV out there that's garbage to watch. Like, is that why? Does it skew? Does it pull everything down as a result?
no, I think that like 10s on this scale are like almost perfect and unachievable, and I think that most things that are good are like 8s or 9s, and a 5 is passing. So like a 5 is passing, a 6 is like it has something interesting, at least a little bit about it. A 7's like meddling, okay, still watch it. An 8 or a 9 is like good, would recommend, and a 10 is like wow.
Okay. All right, so let me figure out where the parts of this that you rate high enough to pull it up. All right, because let's rate the pacing. All right, let's start with the pacing, which is probably the most egregious. And keep in mind, you do not have the same excuse you had in season 1, where it was, oh well, Netflix cut out a bunch of okay, what's your excuse for season 2? You knew that was going to happen. Why didn't you create a more condensed story that could have fit the pacing the pacing restrictions that are put on you? It's not an excuse for season 2.
I have some thoughts about pacing, which is good because we're doing a podcast. So a lot. I think that it's interesting to me to see a lot of people critique the same thing, right? Because I think normally when like something is critiqued, like you don't get pacing as a nuanced one. Normally it's like bad acting, or like they don't like the animation if it's anime, or
it has to be really bad
dialogue.
for pacing to stand out, for people to be like, the pace, like, no, like we're not talking about like movie critics who like spend their life evaluating these things. Nobody naturally pulls up pacing as a problem in cinematography unless it's really bad. You know, it's like the same thing with like, I don't know, weird shit. Like, I don't know, what's another weird like sound design or something. It has to be really bad for it to stand out. You know.
Yeah, it has to be bad for it to stand out, and I think that it was like fully suboptimal, and I don't even know how to forgive it. So let me start to draw a comparison that we might hit on a couple times. I think that my experience watching Dragon Blood Season 2 was worse because of how good Arcane was. Because I constantly found myself thinking, even if it is not even remotely fair to compare them 1-to-1, about how good that show was with its storytelling in particular. And with the way that episodes were broken down, and with the way that they had an entire arc over a season, right? You watch that, first off, everybody should watch Arcane. It's very good. You watch that, and then you watch Dragon Bloods after it, and you go, man, you can just see the different amount of resources that were put into these somewhat comparable things. MOBA-based esport, big, giant video game lore turned Netflix animated show, right? Oh, man, and... It feels to me like you get something like this that has what people identify as icky pacing, because you don't have any one person really reeling in a story. The reason why pacing feels like so quick and like you're not living on anything and like everything goes by so fast and there's no character development is because ultimately we're trying to tell too much of a story in an allotted time. There is so much that happens in season 2 of Dragon Blood that you never have any moments of like levity. You never have any moments of breath. You don't get to just like appreciate and see a character grow and see them struggle. Problems come up and are resolved very quickly. Scenes change very quickly. Characters are introduced and sometimes killed very quickly, right? Like, we're talking collectively, some of these things are happening under the span of like an hour of you watching it. And in order to appreciate a lot of that development, really it's because the audience is growing an attachment to a character, right? Let's take like a completely extreme other example from like a similar medium. Like, the reason why people feel so strongly about Walter White is because you spent 100 hours with him.
Okay, yeah.
The reason why anybody cares about Lena in Dragon's Blood is because they've played Dota and they go, dude, that's Lena. And not because it's deserved in any way. Not because it's earned. Not because you see this character grow. Not because you see their backstory. Not because you see how they interact with other people in the show. More than just a very tiny little bit. So everything feels so quick. Everything feels so fast because there's too much story to tell in the allotted time. It feels like someone needed to pump the brakes and go, hey, we're doing a lot because there is so much in Dota that you can do. How do we do less of it? How do we tell a smaller story? If you look at Arcane, which did have more runtime, right, they told a pretty small story with just a few characters. A lot of side characters, but just a few characters compared to everybody in Dragon's Blood. There's like 13 waifus now, right? Like...
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said about pacing. It definitely felt like the problem was somehow worse in season 2 than it was in season 1. Which
there was more.
I cannot possibly that's the thing, is that like season 2 was worse for me, not because of comparison to Arcane, but comparison to season 1. I thought season 1 was like, there was potential and there was some pacing problems, and I wish they had the opportunity to be able to, you know, flesh out these characters a little bit more. I wish I had gotten more interaction between DK and Mirana, and I wish I had built up that relationship a little bit more. I wish that the problems that had occurred weren't dealt with as quickly as they were. Meanwhile, season 2 was like, I felt like it was like 20% worse than season 1. There was so much shit going on. I was rarely attached to anything that was happening on the screen. Even the big moments of hero death, like Marcy, didn't hit that hard because so much of everything that was happening was so blisteringly fast that by the time we got to that, it was just like, oh, now she's dead. And I was just like, oh, all right. Sure. It was like one of the characters I was attached to, and it honestly did not hit me that hard because there was always so much other shit going on. I don't know, man. I felt like the story was worse. I felt like the pacing was worse. I felt like the voice acting was not very good. That stood out to me sometimes in season 1 as well. I thought the writing and the dialogue was sometimes laughable. Similar problems to season 1. I would say there was only like 1 or 2 moments that like actually like where I was like, oh, that's a good bit of dialogue. Yeah, I think all around season 2 was worse than season 1.
I don't know how much
season
they
1
made.
Ultimately was just disappointing to me. That's it.
I wonder how much they made or already had done between the 2 releases, because how much time was there? It was close to a year, right? I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was close to a year. I don't know how much they did ahead of time, but like that's a pretty short period of time to turn that around. Also, I think that you don't have a lot of revision, and I don't know how much like oversight there was or how many people were really like stakeholders. It's hard to really dissect like exactly quote what's wrong. Like we can talk about symptoms of what's wrong, be like the pacing or the dialogue or what have you, but it's hard to talk about what's wrong if you don't know what really is going on behind the scenes, which feels like an obvious statement, but like what is this actually? What's an underlying cause here? Is it that there wasn't enough?
I know what it is.
What is it?
I know the answer to this.
You know the answer? Okay.
Yes, 100%. 100% locked it. I think that the reason this was turned around so quickly and why season 2 was a bit of a mess. I think that season 1 had some decent success, and I honestly think this is just more like a cash grab than anything else. There's a bunch of dedicated viewers who are gonna watch it. They're gonna be able to sell it to Netflix for a good amount of money. Honestly, I don't. This is the only acceptable answer for me, because, come on, how do you watch that and be like, I'm proud of what we did here today?
Would you would you take like underfunded as another hypothesis?
Yeah, but to me, I feel like those are two different sides of the same coin, right?
Yeah. If you want to pump something out quickly, you're probably not investing. If you underfund
something, it means you're making more money off of it,
something Valve rub hands together.
Evil money noises. Valve has nothing to do with this anime. Honestly, I expected them. I agreed with what somebody said on Reddit, where they're like, yeah, they're not advertising Dragon's Blood season 2 because they saw it, and I was like, that's probably right. And then I watched it, and I was like, it was bad. Valve did end up advertising it, but it was just like, I mean, if I was Valve, right? You've just given this license. I have no idea what kind of money exchange initially for this product, but I feel like Valve, if I'm them, I look at the product that I don't think they had anything to do with, and it was just like, oh well, that's kind of shit. That's disappointing. We hoped you guys would make something good from our intellectual property.
Have we? I know that we talked about Arcane a little bit.
Yeah.
Episodes ago, like when it came out, we were like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty good. People should watch it," right? Like we just recommended it as media, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if I talked about the knowledge that I heard, which is a rumor that show is being developed for 10 years. A decade.
Yeah, I've heard similar things about that, yeah.
And I think that shows in the final product, not because of all the time, and I can't even begin to imagine the amount of money that was spent on it. Arguably, it's probably a bad business decision. Maybe not because it was so beloved, but like I can't imagine the ROI on that. It has to be not good.
Mm.
It's hard to look at something that has been in development in conjunction with the developers who care a lot and hired people internally at Riot to specifically work on a thing from a lore perspective, from an art perspective. They took time to trash art styles and trash episodes, and I think I read that it took them literally years to voice cast Jinx, right? And then you compare to what Dragon's Blood made in a year, and it's like, I wish that there was more invested into it, because I think the source material's there. I really like the way that Studio Mirror draws everything. I'm a big fan of the overall look of the show, but it feels like it just needed more help. And I know that's probably super unfair of a criticism to the one person who's at the top who's making all those show running decisions. I know that there was AMAs from Alex on Reddit, and people were talking to them about the show, but it feels like there needed to be more help and more oversight and more writers and more time and more of everything. And the show just didn't get that, and then it comes out with people going it's kind of paced funny, or the story isn't that great, or the voice actors aren't the best. It just needed more of everything. And I feel like I'm being extra critical of it because, again, I love DOTA so much that it's I want this to be better, and it's not, and that's a bummer.
I just like it to be good. I agree. I want it to be better. Just good is fine. If it wasn't Dota, I would not watch a third season. I will because it pertains to my job and my hobby, and we'll talk about it on the podcast. And I have Netflix; it fills some time. But I'm pretty sure, like, if this was an anime that I was watching, like, I'd be like, nah. I probably would have tapped out on the first season and been like, what the fuck is going on? No, I don't want to watch this. There's too many good shows out there, you know. And that's the thing is like the competition is never been thicker when it comes to okay. So let's put it this way: if it wasn't on Netflix, let's say Paramount is making their big push, right? You saw their announcement; they're doing a Halo series now, right? They're
and
doing
the
their
League of
big
Legends
push.
series. They're also doing the other Riot series.
Oh, really? Okay, I actually know that. So, like, let's say it ends up on Paramount. I feel like people would not subscribe to Paramount to be able to watch this, because it's on Netflix and most people have Netflix. I feel like it's like Netflix is the iconic streaming service.
I think
feel like
Netflix
it gets a bump from that.
Yeah, Paramount is something that is like very much U.S. North American localized, but Netflix has done a good job spreading out throughout the world, much more. So yeah, I think it only makes sense to release something as non-North American based as Dota or League of Legends on Netflix as a platform for best distribution over to like Southeast Asia. But yeah, it's interesting you say Paramount just released their trailer for the Halo show they're doing, which don't have a lot of faith in. And Paramount also released the trailer. How can you don't give that voice to Master Chief? You don't change that voice. Anywho, also the other show they're doing with the conjunction of Riot is like the mockumentary story of the LCS players. They're doing like a mock esports pro series of a team who comes together to play League of Legends. So they're taking a swing. Paramount is investing in gaming. I don't know anything about the League of Legends show. I know that they have some consulting on it that I'm sure will make it seem not tone deaf and not like a bunch of boomers wrote it. But I don't know anything beyond that, if it'll be anywhere close to good. I should probably watch an episode.
Yeah, I imagine Riot will be the exact opposite of Valve in that regard, and they will be like very hands-on. They'll be like, no, you don't get to make anything about our stuff without us vetting it extensively. So, yeah,
like Arcane.
Like Arcane. So I think all around, Dragon's Blood was just super disappointing, and it's actually insane how many people on Reddit treated it like a good show. Actually, never mind good show. Some of them treated it like a great show. What?
I can only assume. I bet that there's people listening to us right now who love Dragon's Blood, and and they might feel attacked, and maybe you should
because you're delusional because you love Dota so much. My thing must be good. I want my thing to be good, and they delude themselves into thinking it is good.
Okay, hear me out. You and me are part of a group of people who really like good storytelling and good television or good anime, right? I bet that some of the people who were like really, really big on Dragon's Blood aren't as into those mediums as we are, and as such just love Dota so much that they kind of look past all that and just see like the cool Dota that's going on. So like that's my scapegoat assumption for them.
That's the same people who complained about Sunstrike not being casted correctly, rather.
To be
because he
fair,
used 3 different orbs.
I did see that, and I went, I don't think that's right. Troy Baker can do no wrong, even if he wants to make NFTs. The man's great. Not that he's the Were there any? We just did a lot of shitting. Was there anything of season 2 that you liked? It can't all be negative. There had to have been something that you pulled away.
Yeah, there was like 2 dialogue lines that made me go, huh, yeah, that was good. I think one of them was actually Caden's, "That's a lot of fucking dragons," which I'm not sure if that's actually good dialogue. It was just so fucking. It's just like they, fuck it, might as well throw it in, might as well.
Um, if I remember one thing from season 2, it'll be that the scene that they had with Bram and Wyvern, when she gives him the ring, I think was very endearing and good character development for Winter Wyvern. As I instantly went from, okay, yeah, this is like a character that's like in the show, to, oh, I like this character. And we got introduced to so many characters in season 2, right? And out of all of them, the only ones who I felt like any amount of empathy towards, any amount of like, man, that was cool, I like that, in any way, was Wyvern because of that scene.
I actually think that Winter Wyvern is everybody's favorite character after watching that series. And it boggles me. It boggles the mind that they can do that with Winter Wyvern, because I agree, they did do a very good job. They made her funny, they made her unique. She was very endearing.
Mm-hmm.
Who wrote that? Was it the same person who wrote the moments for every other character? Because like that just seems, I remember thinking about it and being like, this is actually good. And it slowed down. They actually took the time to have an interaction between two characters, and it was good. And it was nice. And everyone went apeshit because it was the only nice thing out of the second season. And people are just like, fucking Winter Wyvern's the best. She's the best girl. Because everybody else was so mediocre and uncharismatic that by comparison, she was a fucking goddess made of light and rainbows.
Yeah. It's a good scene. I can't pull other scenes, like, the show doesn't really do Luna any favors. She's pretty one-dimensional, even though she kind of has, some change of heart. Like the introduction of the Pangolier is like cool. That's like a horny animal character. I guess it's for the Beastars, the furry fans. Like Lena didn't really develop much, even though she's like in theory a complex character. Like
the Pango had potential. That's a weird thing. The Pangolier, he had potential, but I remember thinking that he just latches on to Luna. In a way, there was no emotional connection. Then it just felt creepy to me, the way he just latched onto her and would follow her everywhere she went, because there was no like emotional connection between their two. There was no spark that ignited him following her around like a fucking puppy. There wasn't that moment of like, there's something going on between these two. That guy's in love with her and she's putting up a cold front, but she might have some feelings back or something. Oh, that's what he's willing to make these fucking crazy sacrifices in order at the chance of love. It wasn't that. It was just like, this guy's just like, I think you're hot. I'm going to follow you forever.
Can I tangent a little bit off that?
Yeah.
Is there like DOTA canon about interspecies sex?
Yes.
Yes. So they do. Yes. They do boink. Yes. Even though they're not okay.
Legion Commander had sex with one of the satyrs. Even though she's like all about it, she's all about the army and persecuting these people. Apparently she had sex with one of the satyrs or something. I don't know. I watch Sir Action Slacks' videos sometimes. That sticks with me. And I know he made a big deal about Legion having sex with one of the satyrs.
Because all that I can think about is like, do pangoliers and humans regularly fuck? And that's not what you want me to be thinking about during your very expensive, very big marquee anime show, right? Is the sexual relationship between different species in the Dota universe and how that works out. But I was just like, does this happen? They can't. There's no way they can procreate. There's not like mixed Dota species, but like, They're boinking.
Well, how do you think the pangolier came out in the first place?
I-
It's a pangolin and a human, dog. And they became pangolier people.
I don't know.
Can we talk about the ending of the show? I want you to explain to me, give me what happened in the last 2 episodes of the show. This big, like, what happened to Lena and the turn at the end with the Void Dragon. What the fuck happened, Joey? Because for the life of me, I don't understand what the fuck just happened.
So I didn't take notes, and this is probably damning of the show because I can't really explain it well, even though it's only been like a couple of weeks. So, end of the show, Lena thinks that Marana won't do good job leading Kingdom and has a plan in place for a while to kind of become the patriarch, the monarch, to become the monarch. And Lena is Lena is a populist. Lena is for the people. The people like her. She can be different and enact change. And she's doing that because she's elected. And then she's stricken down by the shitty bloodline. And then other stuff happens?
No, come on, keep going. So then there's the orb. She gets the orb. She's supposed to channel the opening to go get Terrorblade.
Because they use the power of the thing because the uncle was actually a demon bad person. And he's trying to protect his little Miss Sunshine, which was his favorite movie. And then big bad Uncle Dragon goes away.
He was one of the Void Dragons. The Void Dragon, the dragons that all got eaten by Invoker.
He was one of them?
I honestly, when the Void Dragon came back, I was like, wait, did he not get eaten by Invoker?
No, I thought Invoker gave all the dragons except Slyrack to Terrorblade.
Yeah. So, well, that's what I mean by eaten or whatever. But, like, whatever the fuck he did to those dragons. So, that Void Dragon didn't do it? And, like, what was his point? Something about Marana being the light and he's the dark. And so if she shines bright, then his darkness is more powerful.
That's my favorite Rihanna song, Shine Bright Like a Diamond.
Yeah. Yeah, and he doesn't shine bright, but he likes things that shine bright. And don't forget DK and Slyrack, the dragon guys, they need to go through the orb to get the bad guy, Terrorblade. But they don't want Marana to have the orb, but they also do want her to have the orb.
But Salamane's back?
Terrorblade. But also Salamane's back now. And Fimarin didn't kill her, but then went to her anyway.
Yeah.
Something about Lotus's.
And Davion and Slyrack are no longer a thing. They're separate.
Is that true? Did that happen?
Yeah. Slyrack is no longer inside Davion. I remember that much.
That's the show. If like we both watch this fucking series, right? We're both like relatively intelligent human beings. We're not stupid
I wouldn't go that
brain-dead
far.
animals, okay? We can't explain what the fuck that story was, and I have no doubt somebody's gonna fucking hit me up in the join our Discord hit me up, tell me about all the geniuses that this story. I just wasn't following it close enough. I missed the subtleties or something. But like the fucking story sucked, and the twists at the end, I was not. I was confused. I wasn't like, oh my god, the Void Dragon. It was him all along. Because, like, of course, the counselor guy was going to turn on them at some point in time. You could feel that coming. But, you know, who the fuck he was and what his motive was, and I had no idea. It turns out it was the Void Dragon. I was just like, oh, what? I don't understand. You're still alive? Also, why are you doing this? None of this makes sense. Also, is the orb gonna kill Lena Mirana? What?
You know what I think we touched on? Slack should go make a video to explain all this so I can understand what's going on before I have to watch book 3. Because I'm going to have to figure that out at some point, right?
I wonder what Slacks think, because Slacks has already had problems with, like he'll talk about the lore, and then some writer at Valve will, like, change something. I remember he made a big deal about what was it, like, Jakiro came from, like, was it Winter Wyvern and Dragonite having sex? Was that it?
Oh, that's
and
hot.
He was like, why isn't it Winter Wyvern and Phoenix or something? Anyway, he already had a problem with that. I can't imagine. I imagine he's having like literal conniption fits watching Dragon's Blood if he has a problem with. Because the thing is that like Slacks is actually smart at these things, and he actually can come up with like cool. Whenever he does his headcanons, not all the time, but like a lot of times when he does his headcanons about lore, there's some good ideas there. You know. There was some like, oh, that's actually really cool. And I don't feel that way at all about Dragon's Blood.
I don't understand why Dragon's Blood brought... I feel like so much of what book 1 was there that I liked was kind of the interaction, particular between Mirana and Davion, right? Like that was really set up in like a central focus. And then book 2, they are by and large apart from each other. And I actually think that the majority of the arc here is Mirana choosing to accept her life and come back to it and like her place on the throne and in society, right? Like so much of the story I think is centralized around Mirana's struggle that like that I can kind of overarchingly explain to you because that's what most time was spent about, but I'm really confused to talk about Fiomena and Salamene and Invoker and what Terrorblade's doing and the dragons and her uncle and Davion and Dragonite. There's the same person but Slyrak, and I guess Luna doesn't like Salamene now, and there's a horny Pangolier. Like Lena.
Also, don't forget the Ancients. The Ancients were there as well. I remember that. I don't remember there really being too much of a purpose to it. I remember I was intrigued by the Ancients in book 1 when they had that like fever dream of the dire ancient or whatever the fuck when I say ancient I mean the crystals or whatever the fuck. That was intriguing to me. I wish we had spent more time on it, but then now by the time I don't give a shit about whatever the fuck they're doing with Dire and Radiant, and I don't understand it. I mostly don't understand these things because I just couldn't give a fuck, even though I'm supposed to give a fuck. I am one of the people who is most incentivized to give a fuck, and I watched that. I'm dropping more fuck bombs than the fucking Dragon's Blood right now. And that's impressive. I don't know, man. That's my rant about Dragon's Blood. That was the biggest thing. I wanted you to explain the end to me because if I don't fucking get it and you can't explain it to me, then that means the story is bad. Sorry, everybody. I know somebody's out there who thinks they're 200 fucking IQ and is like, you just don't understand the genius of it. But if it's not fucking written out, if a 6-year-old can't explain it, then it's probably not a great story.
I don't know if it is. I don't know if I agree with that. But
a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old,
sure, a somewhat intelligent teenager. I think, in summary, less can be more. And I think that Dragon's Blood overall, but especially Book 2, would have benefited from less. And maybe that means we don't get some of those cool characters you want to see, your favorite Dota heroes. Maybe that means we don't get as much info about the Ancients. Maybe that means we don't know about the Ancients. Maybe that means we don't see Invoker as much. I don't know. But less is more.
Agreed.
Everybody who clicked everybody who clicked the YouTube link to skip over the Dragon's Blood talk, come back once you watch the show. Go do that, and you can hear our glowing review. Absolutely glowing. You should watch it and form your own opinions, because nothing's worse than just listening to some pundits and taking their word as fact. I didn't like the show very much.
My word is fact. Believe me. Did you see that Mobile Legends Bang Bang had more esports watch hours than Dota? What the fuck?
Impossible,
you say?
Impossible.
Listen,
Is that
actually trying to slide on over there as much as possible?
I mean, they do have the best hoodies. Is that the
They
same?
do have really good hoodies.
Is that the same year-end metrics that put Team Liquid as the most watched esports team in 2021? Like the same graph, same people?
Oh yeah, is that you guys? Oh, now those metrics are real.
What? No.
When it applies to Team Liquid,
Hold
but when it applies
on.
to Mobile Legends Bang Bang,
I don't know what you're talking about. Where did Mobile Legends Bang Bang rank?
It ranks third behind CS:GO. There's like League of Legends way up at the top at 666 million hours or whatever, and then 410 CS:GO, 387 Mobile Legends, 347 Dota.
Oh, hey, we're number 4. That's pretty good. You should go do more Bang Bang.
Yeah. You know, it pays to diversify, especially when. Can we talk about the fact that Riot has been kicking the shit out of Valve for a while? Riot is only putting out bangers lately.
I mean, it dovetails into the conversation about Dragon's Blood, which people skipped over, so I won't reiterate. But like, yeah, the MOBA, I'm sorry, the MMO, probably gonna be good. The fighting game, probably gonna be good. Valorant, doing pretty well. The anime, great. The only thing that they're worse at doing is not being sued for sexual harassment. And
True.
yeah. Which, honestly, pretty important. But
that is a pretty key part of it, yeah.
If you're talking about output, it's hard to not be jealous, and I think that is rubbing off on people. It's hard to not be jealous.
I'm not super jealous just because, I wish Valve was like as successful at putting out games as Riot is right now. But I also wouldn't want to work. I don't know. Like Riot's ecosystem is a little. It's one of those developer-led esports, and you don't have a ton of power. It feels like when people complain about politics and networking and shit like that, that's way more prevalent in a scene
that's a company.
any of Riot's games.
They're a
they
company.
Actually,
Yeah,
they actually control who stays in their game and who doesn't. Valve, I appreciate Valve very much in their relatively open field. They only step in if somebody really does something pretty egregious. They ban people for cheating. And they didn't even say anything about Grant or Toby or anything. All they did was take Toby's voice lines out of the game. But they actually didn't say anything about him. So, I appreciate that soft touch. I wouldn't want to be under Riot's thumb. So I'm not jealous, but it is remarkable how the natural comparison comes between Riot and other games developers, and Blizzard Activison has been shit in the bed for a while, and Valve hasn't put out a big product. And I say this, though, the reason it's popping up is because I'm playing Teamfight Tactics now. I know Merlini was playing it for a while. He really likes the game, so I finally decided I wanted to give it a try for a while. and I've taken it up now. It's it's the auto chess version of League of Legends, and it's good. It's fun to play. I probably enjoy it more than I did Underlords after they changed some things. Like early on, I enjoyed Underlords quite a bit, but Teamfight Tactics is a lot more interesting to me. I'm enjoying playing it quite a bit.
Everybody who I know who loves auto battlers loves TFT. Granted, my circle is like, kind of esports focused, and also a bunch of people who love League of Legends. So like, there's some bias there. But I know a lot of people who play a lot of TFT and just love it. Love it on their tablet in bed. Love it compared to other auto chess games. I personally haven't played it because I am not the biggest fan of the auto chess format. I find that it is.
Sure.
So I oftentimes feel like I'm wasting time when I'm playing it, which I don't get with every game that I play. So I've like kind of made a conscious decision to stay away from it. Also, like I know a lot less about the League of Legends like lore and ecosystem compared to other games.
Yeah, it definitely suffers when I'm like I've played a decent amount of the game now, and I still have to like look at the items and try and figure out like what items are good on which champions, because I don't have that baseline of playing League of Legends and like knowing is this a champion that's good with AP or ability power or good with attack damage, and like which one of these combination of items should I put on them. It's but I still enjoy it. I still like it. Feels more RNG based off of the fact that I don't know the champions well enough at an intimate level, but it's still fine with me.
More forgiving too, because you can always just be like, silly me, instead of like, stupid RNG draw.
True.
But yeah, Riot's doing a good job. Still firing on people, but doing a good job.
Still firing on people.
I think it's I think it's interesting that there's so much news just in the broader scope of the of the video game space, both with I don't think we touched on Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard or Sony buying Bungie, which we definitely haven't because it happened like yesterday, and like all these big companies just gobbling up some of the biggest studios. Like there's few names that are bigger than Activision Blizzard, regardless of what you think about them or their politics or their games, right? Like they're just a juggernaut. Take Two.
I feel like everybody
EA.
saw that news, and everybody or a lot of people were like happy with it because it's a chance for Blizzard Activision to right the ship and actually make some good games again. Off of their great IP that they've built up over decades now.
I wonder. I wonder how much I like. These are things we can never know and can just hypothesize about, right? I wonder how long Microsoft has been interested in that purchase, and I wonder how much that purchase price has gone down given just the state of Blizzard Activision, not just in their games, but like politically and in the media over the last year, between Bobby Kotick at Activision being like, enemy number one for so many people, between the walkouts at Blizzard, between games doing poorly. Like, surely that takes Blizzard from a company that is obscenely expensive to buy to suddenly within Microsoft's price range.
Yeah, it could be. This might have been something they've been looking at for a little bit, and they decided to strike now while the iron was hot. But I think the overall development of these studios and stuff just becoming a bigger and bigger conglomerate is not super good. I feel like that's...
Whoa, dude, hold on. I gotta back off the microphone from that one. Are you telling me? Are you gonna tell me? I don't want to put words in your mouth, buddy. So tell me when to stop. Are you telling me that the idea of monopolies in media, let alone just society, may not be good?
It has had some negative effect on society over the last few years, I would say, in other traditional media. So yeah, it doesn't make me feel real good. I unfortunately though, I feel like a lot of that compared to like television, right? I feel like games is there's always going to be there's so many indie developers out there. So that I feel like the whole games industry is definitely going to be in a much better spot than that, but it's still a little bit concerning that all of this is happening, and we're just they're all gonna have some form of Netflix for their games. What Microsoft has their games library or whatever. Now they can add all the Blizzard Activision games. I think Sony has the same thing, but I couldn't swear to it. If not, I'm sure
they do.
will
They're
at
like
some
so.
point.
Sony has PlayStation Plus. There's Games Pass. I mean, the one who doesn't have it is like Steam, because why
Yeah.
bother? It's
Do you think there's any like deluded CEO out there who's like, you know what, we should buy Valve, and he hits up Gabe and he actually gets in a meeting with him and is like, we want to buy Valve. How much money? You think there's anybody out there who's like has actually tried to do that? Because I personally don't believe that Valve will ever be sold until Gabe is dead. That's my understanding of the. I feel like Gabe, he doesn't need money, obviously. And I feel like he has Valve as a point of pride.
Yeah.
But there's got to be somebody out there who tried, surely. And how much money do you think they offered him?
There's not enough money.
Sure.
I bet that they wouldn't even like make counteroffers, because that would even put the information of the company's estimated worth in a somewhat public situation, which it's not. So I bet Valve doesn't even have to go, well, like it's $1 trillion, which might not be a ridiculous number. I don't know. If giant companies are bought for over hundreds of billions of dollars and the somewhat regular now, like $500 billion.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like all of this puts a lot of pressure on the Steam Deck, by the way. The whole Riot and how they're kicking so much ass, and like as far as we know, I don't know if Valve's developing any games right now, but all I know is that the Steam Deck.
Despite the last couple of episodes and all the shit that I've said about Valve, it's out of a place of love, and it's out of a place because, you know, I'm kind of a fan for a bunch of reasons that aren't just Dota, and I have a Steam Deck pre-order. I don't need one. I think it's going to be a very good piece of hardware. I own an Index. I'm confident they are making games in some way, shape, or form. I think Half-Life Alyx is the most formative and transformative game in the last decade. I think.
Sorry, real quickly. Do you think they're making any games that are not that are just normal PC games and not for VR?
I bet they are.
I hope so.
You know, In the Valley of Gods has been on my Steam wish list for about 4 years now. Even though all those Campos Santos people I don't think work at Valve anymore. That's the fight. That's the fight.
Know what that is?
Oh, that was the first new game that Valve announced like 5 years ago after they bought Campo Santos made Firewatch, and they bought that team, and they were folded into Valve, and then they were working on In the Valley of Gods, and Firewatch is low key one of my favorite games. So I was excited for it, and now I think it's dead, and I have no idea what Valve's making. So you know, what have you?
Wait, it says TBD. Wait, so they were actually making this game and it just never came out?
Hold on. Let me do some.
I see. What you were doing totally flew over my head. Like I thought you were saying it was on your wish list, as in it was a game that you had intended to buy but hadn't bought yet.
No. In the Valley of Gods trailer came out at the Game Awards in 2017, December 2017. This has been over 4 years with. It has been 4 years with zero.
Holy shit. I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, Valve put a trailer out for a game over 4 years ago that I think might be dead.
Was the trailer good?
I mean, sure. I'll buy
One friend wants this game. There's Joey. I put it on my wish list now too.
Great. Maybe we can convince someone to actually make the game. I think the Campos Santos people, like they had like a Twitter thing where they were like, some of them were like, man, I don't like working at Valve. So
Really?
yeah.
Wait, I missed this.
I think it was pretty low key drama. Like I don't think it was super blown up. But yeah.
So what? You think they all just left Valve at some point?
I think that maybe some of the core team isn't there, which is why the game isn't functional anymore and will maybe never be released.
Isn't that a little concerning?
Yes, absolutely.
That like a studio, like you buy a studio and you bring all these employees under your umbrella, and the whatever it is, the work environment, the culture, the Bellevue, whatever it is, was so like acrimonious, so against them, I guess, in some way, that they were just publicly were like, I don't like fucking working here.
I don't know.
That's a little weird.
I think you hit on something interesting though, with the idea of like video game publisher monopolies, because I really hate the idea that like if you look at a graph of American media, it's Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, Comcast, News Corp, CBS. Those six names own everything. And what's different is, like, kind of like what you were saying, is that you can have Microsoft, Sony, Riot, whatever, like, be those big six names that own almost everything. Maybe it's like EA and Rockstar or something, or some of the other ones, right? But it's so much harder to monopolize all of the independent developers that just pop up nonstop with games left and right than it is to pull up like TV channels. There's only so many TV channels. I guess it's different now because like the TV industry can't really monopolize YouTube creators or like independent creators or media like that. But you can't really get that same monopoly with indie games. And I wonder if this consolidation of, Microsoft buying more, of Sony buying more, will actually be in the favor of indie developers or to the detriment of them. And I think it's hard to tell or say or proselytize at this point.
Yeah, somebody who I say plays. Actually, the last AAA game I bought was Halo Infinite. The game before that, I don't even know. It Takes Two, probably.
Last year was a rough year for AAA. So that does check out. I think
before that, I don't even know. Like, I bought Baldur's Gate, but I haven't even played it because it's obviously, I think it's still in beta, right?
I bought Resident Evil Village and Halo.
No. I don't even know what I last played. Like, it's been a long time, but I buy a lot of games. I just buy a shit ton of indie games. And that keeps me pretty happy, honestly. It's like Vampire Survivors is all the rage right now. That's what that's just like this current like week, a lot of streamers and stuff and playing that. It's a fun game. It's an old school, just, run around. You don't have to do anything but WASD, and it's fun. And there's like pretty early in development as far as I understand, because there's like just this week, I think another patch dropped where there was new characters and stuff added in. So it's there's something about games, you don't need like a whole bunch of fancy graphics and shit. Like you got a good idea for a fun game, it's good enough.
I'm gonna talk about games really quickly to round out. I'm excited for the next month because I'm kind of excited for this year, because where last year there wasn't a lot of AAA that like made me a little wet. I'm obviously very excited for Elden Ring, which comes out this month. I'm a giant From Software fan. That's February 25th. That Kirby game that Nintendo's coming out with, I hear a lot of people talking about that it's actually kind of really good. That's exciting. I hear Tunic, which is also coming out in March, is very good. God of War Ragnarok is supposed to come out this year. Fingers crossed, God willing, it does. God of War is probably one of my favorite games of the last decade, the 2018 one. And Dying Light 2 comes out in a couple days, which I've heard some decent things about also. So I think that there's some things that I'm excited for this year. To fill that gap before, like, some of these games are coming out. Remember how I told you I was going to play Final Fantasy IX?
Oh, yeah.
I
How'd that
did, and then I stopped.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
I did, and then I stopped, and I really struggled, and this is going to make some people mad probably, and I'm sorry. I really struggled with the old PS1 style static background walking around aesthetic, and like the open world area and the grindiness of it. And I was invested in, and there's so many mechanics. The game is a fucking Mariana Trench deep. I was invested enough to watch all of the cutscenes and also watch, while I was on the exercise bike, a 9.5-hour GDQ playthrough where people explained the games and speed ran it. So I feel like
really.
So I feel like I got a lot of the Final Fantasy IX experience without playing it, which is good enough for me because I just wasn't having fun playing it. And then I walked over to Final Fantasy X, and I was like, I don't like this at all. I'm going to stop. I'm going to save my time.
Huh. I have not gone back and played Final Fantasy X yet. That is on my to-do list. So
I can give you the Switch cartridge. I have a physical version. You can take it if you want.
All right, sure, I'll take it. Okay, so I have a couple questions about 9 because 9 is my favorite Final Fantasy, and I know a lot of it is nostalgia based. First of all, how'd you like the soundtrack?
Beautiful.
Okay. I think I gave you the warning of like, are you completionist or not? And I said the jump rope mini game.
I didn't jump any rope. Fuck that.
that one's such. Honestly, I wish every game did something like that, where it's just like this giant fucking neon flashing light of like, if you want 100%, this is what you're gonna have to do. Because I like many a gamer, I think that I want to be a completionist. Like, I don't want to miss things until I hit something that frustrates me so much that I'm just like, fuck it, that's it. And then I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the game, and I just enjoy the game. Final Fantasy IX is actually goated for that. Because so early on, it's like, yeah, you're not going to get this. You're not going to be one of those guys. So just enjoy the rest of the game. I'm not sure if that's what they intended, but it works.
Yeah, you know what though? I did after I did all that Final Fantasy IX basically watching. I played for 7 hours before I stopped, which I feel like is a fair amount of time. I did not play as much 10. I started playing a JRPG that I actually really, 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 really liked. And made me, because it's so much more modern, it made me realize the stuff that I didn't like about Final Fantasy more. And that's Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
If people are looking for a JRPG, if people haven't played a bunch of Yakuza games, like I haven't, I tried playing Zero and I stopped because I didn't like it very much. I picked up Like a Dragon, and I am super happy I put the time into it. Would recommend for JRPG people. And if you are a JRPG person, you're probably like, well, of course, it's like, one of the best rated role-playing games in a very long time, Joey. We've known about this. So pardon me for my dumb take, who's very seldomly JRPGing for being a Like a Dragon fan. But that's a game that I'm probably going to put like 50, 60 hours into over the next month.
Oh, yeah. One more question about Final Fantasy IX. How did you like the story?
The story, I think, is really cool. I think being able... I like coming-of-age stories to some degree, right? So I think that gives the base boost for my own personal preference. And I think that it's cool that you're seeing I feel like the main motif about Final Fantasy IX. Wow, bunch of spoilers. I guess I can spoil a game that's that old, right? Is really how different is like coming to terms with life and death, and seeing how the different characters do that. I think Vivi's story is like really nice, of having a character who's like knows that they are destined to not be alive soon, and they just kind of like, you know, live their life to the fullest to make other people happy and like try and like enjoy the time that they have, and then contrast that with our antagonist who is like Zuzu's brother, who, you know, knows that they're gonna die and just want to kill everybody else with them out of spite. And then seeing like, you know, how Garnet deals with like her mom and like her own like coming to power and all. I think that most of the supporting cast is good, but mainly the story, with the Vivi, I think is what makes it touching, and I assume that's what most Final Fantasy IX fans are into, unless they just want to see like, you know, the two main characters do the dirty.
All right, what that? I thought you were gonna say kiss, because you know they're like 13.
I mean, I don't know what consent laws are in, you know.
Oh yeah, they are lower in Japan, but the I'm glad to hear that though, because for me, like the whole coming of age story, that is linked to my own nostalgia, my own coming of age at that period of time. So I wasn't sure how much of that was just you know, rose tinted glasses looking back on that. But yes, Vivi is one of my like all time favorite characters for many of the reasons that you espouse. Quite like I like to think that I would be like Vivi in those moments, you know. Maybe not quite so clumsy and oafish, but you know.
The amount of times that Vivi trips is pretty cute. Yeah, so but like I can't talk to you about 10 like I can talk to you about 9, so maybe that says something. I am still planning on playing 6 though. That's gonna be oh no, that's not true. I have 2 Final Fantasy swings yet left. I'm gonna play 6 Pixel Remaster because so many people herald 6 as like the quote best game in the franchise from like a gameplay standpoint, that I'm interested in that, even though I know given my experience with 9 and 10 I might not like it. But also I've had so many people tell me that I would really enjoy Final Fantasy Tactics, that I am going to play Final Fantasy Tactics and put that on my list. I'm gonna play War of the Lions because it's like a remake that's like the original one but more modern, and I'm going to borrow a PSP to play it on. So those are my last 2 Final Fantasy breaths for now. But I'm gonna finish Like a Dragon first. The game's very good.
All right, is that on Switch?
One thing that we always do before we go, end of the show, we got some questions from Patreon. We can pull one, which I believe if you scroll up a little bit in Discord, I sent it to you a couple days ago, because I'm really hoping that I did, because otherwise I got to pull it right now, which means I got to pause the show and then I got to go cut it out. Just read the higher up one.
Question for the week, or more a little conversation starter. Multiple parts you can talk about. Main question: would you be in favor of a Dota Darkest Dungeon crossover event where Darkest Dungeon classes are added as heroes in Dota? Example, play Dota as Leper or Jester. We had a small crossover with them with the announcer pack. I am a big fan of Darkest Dungeon. I do not like Darkest Dungeon 2.
Have you? I mean, I guess yes, you have played it, but I haven't.
It's in early access. It's on like the Epic Game Steam store. It was when I was in it was when I was in quarantine in Romania, and I only had my laptop, so there wasn't like a ton I could do. And so I played Darkest Dungeon 2. And it was just like a simpler, worse version of Darkest Dungeon 1. I'm not sure what's going on there, but all I hope is that a lot of things change before they fully release the game, because that was not great. They changed so much of Darkest Dungeon, and almost all of it I felt like was worse. So, yeah. I love Darkest Dungeon.
Sorry, I like Darkest Dungeon, the original, a lot. I did not play it until I didn't play it until 2020, which was like a little bit late in the cycle. And I did. I probably put like over 50 hours into it on my Switch. I would play it laying outside on the hammock at night. It's like peak COVID time. We're not doing anything, and I'm just like hanging out, like having a White Claw and like playing Darkest Dungeon. And I got really into it. I got into my party. I got close to 100% of the game. Like I really liked everything about it from a strategy perspective. I don't oftentimes play games in early access that like I think I'm going to be interested in. An example of I wasn't jumping on Darkest Dungeon, and also I didn't play Hades until release either, and I think that was a good choice. And I'm hoping that removing myself from Darkest Dungeon 2 will also be a good choice until the final product comes out, whenever that may be, and then I'll be like, man, I like this, because hopefully they fix the things that you were complaining about because you don't like them. In terms of doing like a Dota crossover, I feel like that would be easy to accomplish in terms of crossovers. I know that they do have the Darkest Dungeon announcer pack, which I always think is really cool. But I wonder how you would do that. I guess you would bring certain heroes as classes into Darkest Dungeon. Maybe you can do like factions, like like Red Mist or.
I think he was saying the opposite. Wait, isn't he saying the opposite? That you play that Leper is a hero in Dota?
Oh, that feels less natural to me than the other way around. But maybe that's because I'm weird and gatekeepy about like what becomes Dota heroes.
Yeah, but they already have like a set of 4 abilities. I feel like it actually works like relatively well. Like the I could see the Jester being a Dota hero. Bleed mechanics, having like buffs to allies. Yeah, I could see like a lot of that actually crossing over pretty easily. It'll never happen, but
have them all be 2D models where they're just kind of like walking sideways. They all look like Paper Mario in Dota.
That would be something you'd have to.
Well, what if you can pull out of like your fantasy booking, what game franchise would you pull characters into Dota for?
Shit. I mean, the Dota, the world that Dota exists in is kind of weird. It's it's fantasy. It's a fantasy world. But it's not like your traditional like Warcraft sort of thing with like, because I feel like in every single one of these, first of all, there was Underlords and there's this and there's just like, it seems like the world is just filled with like 100 different species, and they all interact and shit constantly, and they're constantly mingled and mixed. Unlike like Warcraft, where it's like, oh, there's the humans and there's the orcs and there's the trolls, and they're by and large, more often the large majority of them are segmented from others. And this is like there are 10 times more races, if not 100 times more races than Warcraft, and they all just seem to be in the same universe, weirdly enough. Honestly, the Dota story is like all really weird.
I know who I would fantasy bring into Dota.
Okay, go.
Wario.
Wow.
Maybe that's a personal fetish thing. If you want to ask a question, hypothetical or what have you on the podcast, patreon.com/sidepull. Thank you so much for all the support from all of you. It helps us do the show and I guess do the show better, which is why this one released on time.
There was one more note that I wrote.
Oh.
TSM picked up on dying. We didn't talk about that.
Hold on. Did we? What?
Whatever.
You and I started the show and we're like, we're gonna do an hour today. Okay, let's see if we can make that work. And we clearly did an hour 15, and it wasn't even that difficult. And we forgot about TSM picking up Undying. Let's table that for next week.
Okay, sounds good. That'll be the first thing we talk about next week. hopefully something has happened, including for my own personal I God, I still haven't been hired for DPC next season. I might be out of a job next season, let alone the online majors. I haven't heard anything about that, or hardly anything about that. I don't know if I'm working next season. A bunch of people don't know if they're working next season. I don't know what the fuck's going on. So hopefully next week I'll be able to talk about that.
Well, job security is not very important, right? Whatever.
Yeah, just we'll get back to you early next week, and then 3 weeks go by, and you haven't heard anything despite multiple emails. These things happen.